Hey gang, it's that thing sweeping the entire nation. That's right, Chaos Mania, not Chaos Mania. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the internationally acclaimed Monday Night Chaos. Boys and girls, well-wishers, friends of the Playhouse, and others, welcome to our program. Hope you guys have a great time tonight. We got a halfway decent show for you tonight. I would like to open our program first and foremost with a statement of sorts, a statement that needs to be made. I would like each and every one of you, all of you folks, everyone out there in the gang, and even you people in the Hater Nation, I want to remind you, I am much, much hotter than Steve Wozniak. I cannot stress how much more attractive I am physically than Steve Wozniak. His bankroll might be a little more attractive, but again, I think that's more of a subjective sort of thing. But good evening and welcome to our program. Before we get too far along, also, I want to remind everybody that down below, you can check out all the information to get a hold of me on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on the MiiVerse if you got one of them Nintendo Wii U things. Also, you get all the information to follow the 8-Bit podcast. And I want to thank everybody who came out for the 8-Bit show just last week. And I know you're surprised to see me. I don't know why. We're here each and every week. And that's a guarantee. That's a promise that as long as I am alive and awake, there will be Monday Night Chaos every Monday. Again, as long as I'm alive and or awake. And, you know, one does not necessarily preclude the other. Be advised. I don't want there to be any sour feelings, but, you know, some things are just plain out of our control. But yes, welcome to our program. And I want to start off. Unfortunately, we're starting our program off on a bit of a sad note. As of noon Pacific time today on May the 4th, by the way, happy fucking Star Wars Day to all you people that sat and watched the same 6 movies that you've watched goodness knows how many times, and probably that Christmas special with Harvey Korman, straight in a row. Good for you folks. I don't have the stomach for it, but if that's what you're into, I'm happy for you people. And then there's some sad motherfuckers among you, but we won't talk about that. But what is, speaking of sad things, actually, as of noon this afternoon, there was the passing of the Riviera Hotel Casino in Las Vegas, where they held the Classic Gaming Expo last year in 2014. A little bittersweet. I know there are people that are a little upset. A lot of Las Vegas enthusiasts sad to lose the Riviera, but I want to start this program. I want to get this out of the way. The Riviera was a shithole. Now that I've got that out of the way, we can deduce this for just a minute. We're going to take a minute, and then we'll get to your questions because you guys always have fantastic questions right here on, as I've said before, the internationally acclaimed Monday Night Chaos. And again, I thank you for making the time because you've got nothing else to do on a Monday. You could watch, you know, that thing that used to have wrestling, but no, you're here watching real entertainment, right? Right. Anyway, I was asked what my feelings were about the Riviera, and not to suggest that she was a total pig or anything, but the Riviera, a lot of coverage of the structure of the Riviera since the announcement that the building would be closed today, and this was announced some months ago, and demolition would begin shortly after. All this after, and they are doing this right before a big concert event featuring Metallica, among others, just up the street, and they're taking away almost 1,000 hotel rooms the week before this supposedly huge event. So I think that's something interesting to talk about. But my feelings about the hotel in general, I never stayed there. My experience inside the hotel had to do largely with getting to see for a moment Syphic and those guys. They had suites in the suite tower, the Monte Vista or whatever the hell tower. And my good friend Berman from 8-Bit Artillery, he had a room that was even worse. I have seen, and you know, we feel bad for Berman. Every time we see him, we feel bad because he had to, I don't know if I talked about this on the program, but he had what I would consider like a prison toilet in his bathroom. But my feelings about that place is it was a nice place to visit and stop. It was an interesting place to have a gaming convention, but I wouldn't want to stay overnight there. And it just seems like the kind of place you would get bed bugs in your luggage, you know, that sort of thing. And rooms that I'm sure were really nice rooms in like 1966 or something like that. But these hotel towers just had this vibe of like the suites felt like they were at your grandma's house. If your grandmother was a whore. I think I've just ruined a few people's visions of their grandmother. And then the tower that Berman was staying in, it really felt like the apartment building from Three's Company. But imagine if no one had lived in it for the last 40 years and everything was painted a sky blue. I couldn't figure that part out either. But those are my feelings about the Riviera Las Vegas. So we, after 60 years, they celebrating their Diamond Jubilee. I thought Diamond Jubilee was 75 years, but what do I know? I don't even know why you would call it a Diamond Jubilee. I don't know why you would celebrate a building in the middle of the desert with diamonds, but I don't know. These are all things that we could probably uncover some other time. There's probably far more interesting things we could be talking about tonight. So, but rest in peace, Riviera Las Vegas. And interestingly enough, will not be replaced by another hotel, but this will be replaced by some sort of an expansion of the Las Vegas Convention Center. Interestingly enough. So, also the Riviera Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, the first venue to host the porn convention in Las Vegas. So there's that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's there. There it is. You know, they were trailblazers for making sure that perverts were as recognized of a demographic as possible. And that's good work. Not a lot of people can do that. But yes, welcome to our program, and hope you guys have a great time tonight. I want to say hi to each and every one of you, all the usual suspects that come on out. Also, got a thumbs down before we even came on air. My reputation precedes me. That's a beautiful thing. So let me see what everyone's talking about over here in the comment section. And if I missed your question, I'll do my best. And if I'm not answering your question, chances are that the thing's moving too fast for me. So please feel free to drop me a line on the Twitter, on the Facebook, and I'll get to you. I promise. Solid Gamer wants to know what I think about ukulele. Ukulele, I understand, the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie from former Rare developers, people that used to make up what would today be called Rare, or as you might know them as Connect Sports Studios. It looks interesting. Is it going to be like Banjo-Kazooie? Because if it is, I'm out. I did that once, and I'm not of the mind, again, and I've said that on this program 100 times before, just because it was successful once, way back when you were a kid, that doesn't mean it's a good idea for a revival. I'm just saying, and those are my feelings. Sigma Sean wants to know, is the last game I want to play before I die? All of them. All of them. In fact, there's an entire book completely dedicated to such subject matter. And, you know, I want to play all of them. And if I can't play all of them, then, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to think, because first thing that came to mind was Top Skater. But right before I die, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be well out of any sort of shape to play Top Skater. Spice and Bites is with us this evening, and Spice and Bites wants to know what we're having to drink. The usual thing, we're having some Seagram 7 on the rocks. So, drink them if you got them. Nintendo Gamer asked me to read his comment. I am reading your comment. Fantastic. Anyway, and Lewis Williams is here, and he's having problems with his sleeping. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. Gaming Lord Austin McElrath wants to know if I'm liking 200cc on Mario Kart. As a matter of fact, I am. It's hard. It's hard. It is just as hard as I thought it would be, and I have a hard time taking my finger off of the accelerator button. But it's wild. It's wild. I haven't even done online yet, just because I'm trying to, get a handle on it, and it's pretty wild. I use the sand rail for Mario Kart, and that's already a pretty lightweight, wild sort of vehicle in the first place. But but I enjoy it. And hey, what about those that DLC for Mario Kart 8? That was quite a thing. And if you wonder what I mean by quite a thing, of course I mean Big Blue, which was just absolutely outstanding. All of the DLC for Mario Kart 8, I think, has just been absolutely outstanding, especially for someone like me who was so against downloadable content for the longest time. Just to see Nintendo kind of come out, and I hesitate to repeat a cliche, but come out and do it right, and I don't feel like I'm being taken. They're doing a great job. And I think this is it for the Mario Kart 8 DLC. But a lot of cool things coming out that I'm surprised to see, is as charming as it is. So it's a good thing. Lone Wolf Warrior wants to know if the 8-Bit Podcast will do a live reaction stream for E3. Not a live reaction stream. I find that's a day when the internet is already heavily taxed on that day to begin with. You'll find that a lot of YouTube streams and stuff don't typically work on days like that when those things are being streamed. And I think it's kind of just a waste of time. I don't understand the idea of live reactions. I guess that's kind of what I'm doing here, having a live reaction to whatever it is that you're saying. But it doesn't seem like, it doesn't make for good entertainment. I know it might seem, cool that it's live and there's a bit of shock and awe for it being live and whatever that may be, but it doesn't strike me as interesting. But there will be the usual E3 damage report right after the comings and goings of E3 this year. So don't you worry. We got you. Maxim Index wants to know my thoughts on Wiener Schnitzel. The restaurant? I don't know. I haven't eaten at a Wiener Schnitzel in more than a decade. So I really couldn't tell you. Pocky Spammer wants to know, do I or have I ever played any pen and paper RPGs? I'm glad you brought that up, as a matter of fact. This is something I wanted to bitch and complain about. I was talking with Alpha Omega Sin. You might know him, a good friend of mine. Works with me on the 8-Bit Podcast. And he and I, we were just having a chat, trying to get some feedback sorted out, interestingly enough. And we're sitting there having a chat, and in the back behind him, in his little game den there were these orange boxes. And I said, what are those metallic orange boxes? And he picks up these huge boxes of Magic the Gathering cards. And I said, those are playing cards? And he says, yeah, all of them. And he's really into those sorts of things. And he says, what do you think about, he asked me, he says, what are your feelings on the Magic the Gathering? And I said, let me tell you, way back when, back in the 90s, going way back in the 90s, my friends at the time, we were kind of getting into that sort of thing. Like, we had heard of, there wasn't really an internet to speak of, not much anyway. And we had heard of this Dungeons and Dragons thing. And my Uncle Earl had some Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And I said, that's right, I'm going to hunker down. I'm going to figure out this Dungeons and Dragons thing. It was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1, I think. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons version 1 or 1.5. And I learned those rules, and it's a lot of preparation to get an adventure together and all that stuff. And I sat down and I put it together, and I came into the library one day, ready, we're going to throw down, we're going to do this thing. And they had discovered Magic the Gathering and were no longer interested in Dungeons and Dragons. At which point I threw a double bones and I said, fuck you people. I spent 2 weeks learning how to do this. I actually spent longer than that. And I even bought a copy of Dragon Magazine. And I was so mad, and ever since then, I've always, when if you ever come across a bookstore or something like that, I look at the Dungeons and Dragons books because they're very attractive. They're very handsome to look at and to read, but I never invest any money because I'm never going to play these damn things. You have to have friends with an attention span. And at my age, and probably further than this, it doesn't get any better. As far as the attention span, they think that's a young kid's thing, but you deal with men in their 30s. If it doesn't involve the NFL or the UFC, it's really hard to keep their attention, which is kind of a shame if you really think about. Well, I guess tits, they can pay attention to that, and even that they lose interest in. Men love to stare at big tits until they get to be close to 40, and then they don't want to look at them anymore, it seems. But anyway, that's my feelings on the pen and paper RPGs. I always want to, but it's a very much a group effort. And I figure if you're going to spend that much time sitting around a table with pen and paper with other people needing to be creative, you might as well just sit down and write a sitcom or something. Do something else. Because it seems like it's a lot of work for not a lot in return. You went into a room. Well, I choose to, then you deal with those. You could listen to, actually, Return to Mother Base tells me all these stories about people doing stupid shit during the Dungeons and Dragons games. So about telling jokes and so on, but we can discuss that another time. Solid Gamer wants to know, did I hear that Koji Igarashi is going to announce a Castlevania successor? I heard something about that rattling around, and there's talk that it will be a crowd-funded effort. If he can do it, cool, but I really think that we're at a point, and if you listen to the 8-Bit podcast, you should know this, that we're at this point where the concept of a crowd-funded thing or a Kickstarter has really been beaten into the ground with mistrust. And if he can get somebody to give him money for it, cool. But I don't know. I'm of the mind that Castlevania has really overstayed its welcome. It's one of those game series that continually tries to fit into a different mold while simply holding onto the Castlevania game for marquee value. The Castlevania name is nothing more than that. Much like Frankenstein. You say that name and, thunder and lightning goes off in the background. Then you realize all the bullshit that was attached to the name Frankenstein. And it begins to loosen after a little while. So, whatever. I feel that most of those long-running game series, and I have the same feeling about politicians that have been in the game for far too long. You are peddling simply a name, and you will steal our money and then run off, laughing, and then you'll resurface a few years later when you need money again. That's the way I feel about these long-running game franchises that, continually, cannot stick to their guns, but, try and cling to what is popular, and that shows, in my opinion, no integrity. And to keep trotting out these different games with the same name on it just makes everybody involved look like shit. But that's just my feeling. That's just the way I feel about it. Mix Sim says Europe is getting the Kirby game later this week. Is it worth the buy? Absolutely. I recommend that you never buy a game day one. Just, I always want to let the price fall a little bit. You never pay retail. Don't be a sucker. Don't be a sucker and pay retail. That's a real good piece of advice. I think I've given that piece of advice on this program a number of times before, and I would like to reiterate that point. Never pay retail. But I enjoy it thoroughly. Max Dominguez wants to know what I think of Silent Hill 3 and 4. I think Silent Hill 3 and 4, I've never played Silent Hill 3 and 4. I don't care about Silent Hill anymore. I don't even care to discuss Silent Hill. If you watch the 8-Bit podcast on Friday, you'll notice that I spent about 20 minutes saying a whole bunch of nothing because I don't give a shit. And those guys, bless those guys that work with me on that program every single time. Alpha Omega Sin and Razor Fist went on and on about Konami and Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill, and I just don't give a hunk of shit anymore. I don't care. And this, I think, lends to my point again about long-lasting marquee names that continually disappoint their fans, but the fans keep showing up. Just like these fucking idiots that go to World Wrestling Federation events and boo. If you don't like it, why did you go? But let me see here. Kashiro guy wants to know that is it bad that he's eaten 16 pieces of bread today? Is it white bread? Because if so, yes. And he wants to know what are some of my favorite third-party Wii titles. Third-party Wii titles. One that's really good that sticks out to me is Lost in Shadow, which I enjoy. Done by the fine folks at Hudson Soft. And I love the fine folks at Hudson Soft. They did almost the entire library of games for the TurboGrafx 16. So that's a fantastic one. Another one that really sticks out is the Ghost Squad port on the Wii. Fantastic version. Almost arcade perfect. Not quite, but I think it's optimized for the Wii. It's a great game, and I recommend it very highly. Now, mind you, most of my favorite games on any Nintendo console are first-party Nintendo, but other third-party games on the Wii that really stick out. I was looking at them the other day, and now I've forgotten. One that was pretty good, and then but I lost interest in it. But well-made game was The Conduit, which I don't really like first-person shooter games, but it's a well-made game. I enjoyed it, and I got to a point where it was to my mind, I don't want to say they shoehorn the motion control. The motion control works great to a point. And then the game becomes really hard, and the motion controls become kind of frustrating, which was one of the failings. I shouldn't say failings, but one of the lackluster points of Metroid Other M is that the motion control essentially began to get in the way. And I don't think that developers really thought that through. There's a lot of developers that made games for the Wii, and people blame the Wii or they blame motion controls. Like, blame the people who made these games that shoehorn this design in there without thinking this is going to get, this might be a little difficult at first. It's going to be really difficult when you get towards the end of the game. I think that a lot of developers did not take that into account. And that's important. You have to understand these things, that not everyone is going to have the same experience, especially with what could have been looked at as an experimental control scheme from the very beginning. So, did I check out Cursed Mountain? I'm not familiar with Cursed Mountain. And the Boston Burf brings up Geometry Wars Galaxies. That's a good one. Another one I recommend highly is the Metal Slug Anthology. I have to recommend that very highly. I'm trying to think what else is there. Let me think about that for a minute. Because there's a bunch that are not springing to mind right now. And then there's some games on the WiiWare that I didn't get to play that I would really like to play. Like, did anybody play the Castlevania and Contra Reloaded? I didn't get around to those. So I wish I could put those on my list of favorite third-party games, but they look good, but I've never gotten around to playing those games. Big J Man wants to know my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I was thinking about that. And I thought because I realized that there's a movie that everyone claims to know, but never comes up on a bunch of lists for Schwarzenegger. Or at least this could be my imagination, but never comes up in conversation, which is Commando from 1985 with Ray Don Chong and Dan Hedaya. I think Commando is probably my favorite. The second being Terminator 2. And now I don't want to make it seem like I like Terminator 2 better than the Terminator. I just find them to be two different, completely different types of movies. And so that's why I can't really rate them as one being better than the other. Terminator 2 is a special effects sci-fi action movie with a very strong, a very strong time travel sort of presence. Whereas the Terminator, the original, and I'm pretty sure I bring this up every year. The Terminator, the original Terminator, is a slasher film, is a horror film. Very, very different. And but I think, one the Schwarzenegger film that stands out the most for me that I love to watch is Commando. And I want to say this. I don't like Last Action Hero. Last Action Hero has been on Netflix for goodness knows how long now, and it keeps telling me to watch it. I don't like Last Action Hero. I tried. I know it's corny. It's got a few funny moments, but I don't like Last Action Hero. So, and Surprising Bites brings up Total Recall. Total Recall's fun. Especially if you like Sharon Stone and, her. She had stretch pants on, which is special. Sharon Stone in stretch pants. There's nothing quite like it. Nitro Java wants to know if there's any albums this year that I like so far. None. I have not been exposed to any new music this year that I would, And I try and stay up with the heavy metal albums that are coming out, and nothing. I was gonna bring up. I said there's the only new music, and I think this album came out last year. Actually, was from a band called the 1975. They've got a catchy little album. I think it's just called the 1975. I think they're popular with young girls. Could be, but they've got some catchy songs. But I think that album came out last year, or maybe even the year before. But no albums have this year really jumped out at me, and that's a real shame. I've seen a few new albums come out, and I understand there's a new Cold Chamber album out, and I hope someone sets that fucking band on fire. And then Powerwolf came out with a new album, and they're doing the exact same thing they were doing 10 years ago, for better or for worse. So nothing that's I wanted to run out and go get, sadly. Solid Gamer wants to know, would I like the idea of there being a new Battletoads game? No. Battletoads got 3 tries. Arcade, NES, and then they got the Battletoads Double Dragon thing. And none of those games are really that good. They're charming for what they are, absolutely. But I don't think there's anything in there that would warrant another game. They're not even all that charming to begin with. And Battletoads remind me very much of Double Dragon. They kept trying to spin that into a franchise, and it never worked because there was really nothing there to begin with. It was, tough punks, hey, someone stole our bitch. Well, let's go get that bitch. That's like half of the fucking video games that you've ever played. Someone took the bitch. Let's go call your friend with the sports car. Let's go get that bitch. And that's and then you punch and kick until you got the bitch. That's also the premise of Kung Fu, just without the sports car. So no, I'm not of the mind that Battletoads needs another game. Again, I'm at this point where I want new ideas. If you don't have any new ideas, I say the same thing to the game industry that I say to Hollywood. If you don't have any new ideas, what the fuck are you knocking on my door for? You can say that to the Christian people and the Catholic people and the Mormon people too. They don't have any new ideas. They keep peddling the same fucking idea and expect you to swallow it and keep paying for it. That's right, I said it. And don't forget, religion is a show. They just don't take admission at the door. They take it halfway through after you're already got the Holy Spirit and shit. But anyway. Surprising Bias wants to know what I think of Mighty Max. I don't know. You have to refresh my memory. I've experienced a lot of things called Mighty Max, so I'm not familiar. Maxim Index wants to know, can I start yelling at the Bilderbergs? My brother-in-law and I, we yell at the Bilderbergs all the time. Every once in a while, he puts on the Alex Jones show, and I can hear him sell his Freedom coffee. This coffee is special because it comes from Mexico, where people are free. Yeah, and if you buy this coffee, you can help spread freedom the globe across and defeat the Rockefellers and the Bilderbergs and all that. Well, what are you gonna do? Let's talk about drunk girls being impressed by anything you say. That's not true. That's not true. Drunk girls are mostly impressed with the carpet because that's the impression left in their face after they fell asleep on it. Cheap joke, but what are you going to do? If you were looking for highbrow humor, boy, are you in the wrong place. This is the wrong arena. Let me see. Can you listen to my yelliest voice? What the fuck does that mean? Are you comparing me to Fernando Lamas? Sonoso, yellos, if that's what you're talking about, which I'm sure you are. Kit171 wants to know, do I know of or like Stallman? I have heard of Stallman, but I don't remember anything about them, unfortunately. Cartoon with a kid. I'm reading Spites and Bites. Please forgive me. I'm reading Spites and Bites description of Mighty Max. A kid who is considered the cat bear and can jump through portals using his cap to create. I've heard of that, but I have never experienced it. Biogenesis says that I mentioned The Offspring in a previous episode of right here on Monday Night Chaos. And do I like their old stuff or the new stuff? I guess their middle stuff, right before they got super popular. For instance, their album Smash, which I consider just an absolute. I have to give a disclaimer. I come from Orange County, California, particularly right around the corner from where the Offspring are from. So when you live in Orange County, California, it's expected that you know who the. In fact, I've been to Dexter Holland's house, so that's how familiar I am with the Offspring. But yeah, right before they got super popular, I know they did that Rise and Fall album, and I wasn't a big fan. But their album Smash, they did an album called Ignition, which was really good. There's an album called Ixnay and the Hombre. And then there's an album called Americana, which has its moments. But those albums are quite good, and I recommend them highly. Their early stuff is good, but they sound a lot like the Youth Brigade, a lot of Orange County punk early on. They didn't really find their niche until, I'd say, like Ignition is when they really found what they were doing. And I think they got away from Epitaph Records, which was probably a smart thing. Did I watch the Hanna-Barbera Pac-Man cartoon? Yes, I did. And it's a lot like the Flintstones. Did I eat Pac-Man pasta? No. That's not pasta. That's not even food. Big J Man wants to know my thoughts on the new Guitar Hero and Rock Band games. I'm sure they're going to be very similar to the old Guitar Hero and Rock Band games, except I understand that they're going to be full motion video experiences. Why it's thought that this is the right time for that, I don't know. I hope it sells well. And if it doesn't, what are you going to do? I don't know what else to say. I really think that it's one thing when these type of thing, when these genres of entertainment come around, they come full circle and they organically come around again. But what this is a manufactured marketing cycle. They've already infiltrated this scene, and they've got people on the inside to try and make it seem as though there's demand for these games. I'm sure there's a handful of you out there who really like these games, but the real problem with what's going on in those, I shouldn't call them niche, but those party gatherer or crowd gatherer type games, which are put together solely to build a scene around them. They cannot stand on their own, at least in my estimation. And what's really the real problem with those games and what no one recognizes, because of all the music licensing involved and the technology and mostly the music licensing. Music licensing is still ridiculously expensive, and that is what's held back music for years, is too many fat old white people and, young skinny people who are rich and essentially have music in a stranglehold. Because people can now sue over chord progression. And that's why music licensing is so expensive. And games like this, like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, cannot make money unless they are the absolute bee's knees. Much like, and I'm going to go back to World Championship Wrestling in the 1990s, the only way that company made any money was by being at the absolute top, by being number one. They could not be a competitive entity. And these games, based on my own research, cannot make money unless they are absolutely selling out the yin-yang, and that is a serious problem. There's a lot of games out there like that right now that cannot make money if they are not doing buku numbers. And that's just plain not being competitive. If you cannot survive being one of a handful of racers, then, essentially you are the ultimate warrior of your grouping. Because, if you cannot make any money without being at the absolute top and being completely smashed over, then you are not a competitive entity. Excuse me. And that's my feelings on those games. I hope they do well, but I really don't think they will. I think this is going to be, I think they're trying to capture, they think that they can grab one more of the flash of the pan. And they probably made a lot of promises to a lot of music publishers that this is going to be hot shit again. And it's not going to. You know, it might have moderate success. It might do well through, let's say, holiday this year into E3 cycle next year. And I don't see this going much further than that. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that there's growth within this industry. I really hope that. And Lupacillo says that the full motion video game is making a resurgence. You're full of shit. Lupacillo, I know you're just sitting there playing the devil's advocate like you do every single week on my program. And for some reason, every program that I'm involved in, he's got a bit of a man crush on me. But that's okay. That's okay. Because I'm more attractive than Steve Wozniak, I can understand that sort of thing. But no, there's no resurgent full motion video. See, that's the thing. People have this idea that the hipsters are buying the games. They don't buy games. They sit there and laugh at it. I've always found it interesting that they're trying to court these people who don't buy video games. These people are the people that pay $55 for a loose fucking copy of Contra. They're morons. Why tailor something to these people who aren't shopping in your demographic? It's bullshit. They expect you to believe this sort of thing, and it's not true. Let me see here. What about my GBA collection? Somebody want to see my Game Boy Advance collection? I didn't think there'd be any interest in that. But when I'm going to try and knock out... I was trying to do collection videos all this week, and I've just been so busy. And I hope to get back on that because I don't know. It's more content for you folks. You guys keep tuning in for some reason, and I thank you. So I'll try and do that. I thought there was a bug in my drink. It's like, whatever, he's dead now. Anyway, my favorite Zelda game, I swear I've covered this before. My favorite Zelda game is probably the original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I hope one day to have a copy of it on the Famicom Disk System because I like it that much. Do I like Deus Ex? No. But thank you for asking. There's a whole nother conversation going on. I feel bad for the people that are going to watch this in a rerun because I know you can't have access to what I'm seeing and all the fine folks. And I want to say hello to those people, the people that somehow get a hold of the downloaded audio for this program and listen to us on your drive to work on a Tuesday morning. So for those people, happy Tuesday. But and Blossom Burf wants to see me do my GBA collection. I think I will. Right before, because I'm about to get rid of some garbage, because there's a lot of garbage on the GBA. Before I get rid of those games, in fact, I think I'll do that. I'm going to try and do that tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have that out this week, because I got a busy week ahead of me, so hopefully I'll have time for that. Midnight Defender wants to know my favorite old school UK extreme metal hardcore punk bands. Well, that's a old school UK extreme metal hardcore punk. That's a lot. Who fits... The only band I know that fits into that would be like Extreme Noise Terror and maybe the initial formation of Napalm Death. Those are the only groups I know that would fit into that designation. But I really like Napalm Death and Extreme Noise Terror, just off the top of my head. And the Boston Burst says that the GBA is his favorite handheld. Not my favorite handheld, but Boston Burf and I, we're going to have to get together and gush about handhelds. He and I don't get a chance to talk very much, so we're going to have to do that pretty soon. Slade12345 asked, what is my favorite Motorhead album? That's an album called Bastards that came out a few years back. Lewis Williams wants to know if I'm excited about a new King Diamond album. Is the King going to do another album? Because a few years ago, King put out a new album and was going to go on a world tour and then fell down in the shower and broke his hip or something. In an oh-so-senior citizen manner. Yeah, I'm very excited. I hope that he puts out a new great album and there's a world tour and I'll have something to go see. I can't wait. And if anybody hears about a King Diamond world tour before I do, get it to me, because it's getting harder and harder because bands don't tour like they used to, at least not in the western region of the United States. The clubs are too far apart here on the West Coast, so bands don't bother to tour here because it's too expensive, what with the cost of gasoline and all that stuff. Does Razorfist know that I don't like DSX? I don't give a shit whether Razorfist, he's watching right now. Fist, I don't give a fuck about Deus Ex. Spicy Bites wants to know, which companies do I feel took full advantage of their development hardware to bring the games out that they did? It certainly wasn't the people working with the Atari Jaguar. I know that. I know that for certain. Those people didn't even try. Well, I shouldn't say they didn't even try. I think that the same fate fell on them as did the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn. Complicated hardware that could have done a lot, but was just a bit obtuse for what was, the development cycle of the time. But who really got the most? That's arguable. You could say that the Wii, had some very impressive gameplay and visuals and things and great sound, especially when no one really expected anything of it. Another example would be the NES. Some people pulled some amazing things out of the NES and continue to do so to this day. Another one, the Dreamcast. There have been fantastic stuff done with the Dreamcast. Better games have come out for the Dreamcast since Sega discontinued support of it. I really think that Sega, and you can read into this what you want to, Sega discontinuing support for the Dreamcast was the best thing they could have ever done, because ever since then, absolute devastating games have been released on that system. Another one probably be the Sega Genesis. Was great. A lot of great stuff on there. But I think almost every console, that's not unfair to say. A lot of consoles, the major consoles, there was always a handful of software that really surprised you with what they could do with said hardware. There's talk. Lewis Williams wants to know the first metal show I went to. Oh boy. I don't know. That would depend on your definition of heavy metal, because I'm trying to think. The first big concert I went to. The first big concert. Did I tell this story already? The first big concert I went to was with my folks. We went to see Styx, who are a little bit of a metal band, a little bit of a heavy metal band. They got some heavy metal-ish elements to them with Kansas. Yeah, Styx in Kansas. And not a very heavy show, and a lot of old people. I went to see that in like 1995, I think. But first, I think you mean first like underground, kind of metal show. Wow. I don't remember. I really don't remember. I want to say, I have no idea. I don't remember. If I was probably at the Showcase Theater in Corona, California. I don't remember. I remember I saw some. I went to the Ozfest a few years, and I did see some metal shows before that. So I really don't remember. I'm terribly sorry. Solid Gamer wants to know anything in particular that I want from the next Nintendo console / handheld. Yes, the next handheld, which I think this Nintendo NX that they're working on, the codename NX, will be a handheld. I hope Street Pass returns. That is such a good thing. And I hope they can expand upon that. Street Pass is such a good thing. It's unconventional, non-linear multiplayer. If you don't have a Nintendo 3DS, you don't know what that is. I'm sorry, you're missing out. And I can't explain it to you. You'd really have to experience it to figure it out. But I hope that returns. And as far as features, I don't know. I would like to think that there would be more of a social direct messaging aspect to it, because I know a lot of people expected that from the 3DS and it just never came to fruition. I don't know if they'll do that, but that would be interesting. But on the other hand, I know a lot of people say, why haven't they done that? Because then it just turns into another platform in which you can receive dick pictures. And don't you have enough of that in your life? You know? And I know there are young ladies that get dick pictures on their phone. Why would they buy a game machine to get dick pictures? Because that seems that anytime you give someone a communication device with a camera, there's dick pictures abound. And this is what we're doing with this really advanced technology. It's a shame. Boston Burf says bands don't usually come there anymore. Well, you're in Wisconsin. There's just woods. I mean, where do they really? Where could they really play? I know you can play in Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, they have the what's that club? The Eagle Club. If that place is still there, I know that was like an extreme metal haven, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it the Eagles Club or? Shit, I can't remember. It was a place they used to have the Milwaukee Metal Meltdown there. I can't remember what it was called, and I always meant to go. And a few people invited me in bands, actually said, you should come down. Like, I'm not going to fly to fucking Milwaukee to come see you play 25 minutes. And then I found out they played for less than that. That was my friend's Avenger of Blood that did that. But I always wanted to do the Milwaukee Metal Meltdown or the Metal Massacre or whatever. But yeah. Midnight Defender was talking about a lot of other bands, but I like Napalm Death, Bolt Thrower. I love Benediction. I love Benediction. If you guys, I don't know, I'm going to plug some videos that are on the channel. If you can find some of the Crepitus material that's still out there. Our singer at the time, Nick Jones, who, good friend of mine still to this very day, is a dead ringer for early Dave Ingram from Benediction. And Dave Ingram is really the archetype for Barney Greenway from Napalm Death, and Johann Leva from early Arch Enemy. So I gotta get some of that on there. I want to share with you my good friend Nick Jones, talented vocalist. If you like Benediction, you'll really like Nick. And I don't know what Nick's up to lately. Maybe we'll try and do another. I've been trying to do another Crepitus album for years, and it's just hard to get those guys to do anything. So. Let me see here. I'm sorry. The Boston Burf corrects me. It was the Milwaukee Metal Fest. Sorry, the Metal Meltdown was in Jersey, I think. In Jersey, I think. Raleigh, the Flaming Wookie Cookie, wants to know what I like better, Doom or Duke Nukem. Doom. I think Duke Nukem was Doom with, toilet humor, which I'm sure worked really great for. I'm sure I don't remember playing that game. I was a teenager by the time I played that game. It had been out for a long time, and I was just pissed off. I'm like, it's Doom, but you can piss and look at girly pictures. I guess maybe the 12-year-old Yellkaos would have been far more impressed than a 16-year-old Kaos. But either way, I was unimpressed when I saw it. That's why when they brought it out again, I was like, what? Nitro Java wants to know my favorite Soilwork album. That's a dead tie, actually. I would say either actually my favorite is Natural Born Chaos, but a really close second, interestingly enough. I didn't recognize that. I kind of made a pun there. Natural Born Chaos, and aside from that would be close second would be the Chain Heart Machine, particularly and Figure Number 5 is a good album too. Figure Number 5 is a good album. Light the Torch is a really good track. If you love harmonies, those are great records to go after. But Natural Born Chaos, and a lot that seems to be an album that's very what's the word? Partisan or just controversial. Some people say, oh well, that's when they stopped doing. They started to sound more like In Flames, and I don't agree with that at all. But hey, and I know that's the album that turned a lot of people on to Soilwork, so good on them, and I like that record. Kip171 wants to know if I ever played Seaman for the Dreamcast. I see what you did. No. I've seen Seaman. I did say Seaman, didn't I? Ah, fuck. Oh well. What are you gonna do? I'm not familiar with Seaman. I understand that it's like a lot of people say it's like that of Shenmue, in that it's just genius, and I don't know that for certain. Psycho DX wants to know my favorite wrestler finish. I don't really like wrestling finishers because wrestling finishers are really just, I like wrestling holds, but wrestling finishers are really just catchphrases like "feed me more" and "I've got some bad news" and the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. It's a catchphrase, you know, it's dumb. But if I were to pick one, and it's not really a finisher, but I the sharpshooter, or the Scorpion Deathlock, or the Indian Deathlock, or, you know, a lot of, I know that the Indian Deathlock is sometimes what the STF is. It's all different. But the sharpshooter, particularly the way Owen Hart would execute the sharpshooter, I think that he did it better than Bret Hart. And I love Bret Hart. The fightingest champion in the history of the World Wrestling Federation. Andy Thompson wants to know, do I like Mystery Science Theater 3000? Sometimes. I like the movie very much so. But I feel that the episodes were hit or miss. And a lot of people won't give me that, especially with the resurgence of riff tracks. Like, oh, everything they did was great. You're fucking lying. And you know, most of these fucking liars come out when it's time for a panel at a con. I want to tell you how great you are. Everything you did is great. You're a fucking liar. They reviewed shitty movies, and not everything you say over a shitty movie is funny. I know. I've seen Twister twice. Why they didn't do Twister, I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe Riff Tracks did Twister. The tornado is coming to get you. Andy Thompson wants to know, who would I fight in the steel cage? Anybody I had to. But there would be no pinfall or submission. You'd have to climb out of the cage. At which point you guys would not see me on this show for weeks. It would take me weeks to heal after climbing out of a cage. But I'm opposed to the concept where you can climb out or pinfall or submission. I think that's stupid. Too many options does not make a contest. And I'm tired of wrestling matches looking like cat fights on the Jerry Springer show that just happen to have ropes wrapped around it. Sick of that shit. Big J Man wants to know if I played Dead Space. Yes, once. Once was enough. Solid Gamer wants to know, do I like games like Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne? No. I've never played Bloodborne, so I can't say, but it looks like those games, and I didn't like it. I forget if it was Dark Souls or Demon's Souls I played, and I didn't like it. Have I heard of God, the Devil, and Bob, or the Gregory Horror Show? I've heard of God, the Devil, and Bob, and I don't remember anything about it. The Gregory Horror Show does not even ring a bell. I'm sorry to say. Maxim Index wants to know my favorite kind of Mexican food. Mrs. Yellkaos makes me chile verde cheese enchiladas, and I love those very much. Very, 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 very much. But, you know, any kind of Mexican. I come from San Diego. Well, I live in San Diego, so it's all Mexican food, really. As I say, when I moved here to San Diego, all my friends in LA said, "Where are you moving to?" I said, "I'm moving to the old country, San Diego." If you're Mexican American, that's funny. So if all the white people are not laughing at that, didn't even realize that was a joke. Do I prefer technical wrestlers or luchadors? It depends. I don't really go by wrestling styles. I go by individuals because everybody wrestles in their own way. I don't want to badmouth the luchadors, but here in San Diego, well, actually, most luchadores and lucha libre in general looks like a fucking dance recital. it looks so predetermined because it's choreographed. They choreograph the whole damn thing before they ever walk out. They take the customers completely out of the equation and have the whole match planned before they ever make their entrances. That's not all of them, but that's most of them, and it's a shame. So I like to regard wrestlers individually because everybody wrestles differently. For instance, you could look at the way Killer Kowalski wrestled, and then a lot of people trained by Killer Kowalski who wrestle nothing like Killer Kowalski. You know, there's a few things here and there, but you have to regard people as individuals. That's the way I feel about it. Let me see. Big J Man wants to know my favorite Beatles album. I'm sorry, I'm not of the mind. I don't care about the Beatles. I really don't. I like a handful of their songs here and there. I like the stuff that the Beatles did solo more than I did anything they did as the Beatles. So. Solid Gamer wants to know what I think of Zelda Wii U. I don't know. I haven't played it. I hope it's good. Do I want to see a new Metroid? Sure. Metroid's been away for a while. I'm of the mind that you could always have a little more Metroid, but at the same time, I would like to see them do something new in the series. That'd be cool. So, and unfortunately, and this is sad, they have a huge hurdle to overcome because the internet are a bunch of fucking dickheads in the way that the Metroid Other M was derided. So they have a huge, anybody, and it's probably going to be Retro Studios who do great work. They have a huge hurdle to overcome. Shame. And it's a shame. It really is. But yeah, I hope to, and if they have new ideas. So, and I don't think that Metroid has been beaten into the ground. Luckily for them. Nitro Java wants to know my favorite hair metal bands. I don't really understand that as a genre of music. That seems to be more a descriptor of fashion because a lot of bands that I don't think deserve that title kind of get lumped in there, like Slaughter and I mean, I guess you could even put early Pantera in that vein, but I like a lot of those bands. I guess bands like Cinderella and Rat to a degree. Again, I like some of their songs. But few of those bands really stick out and have long discographies that you can listen to virtually every song. You know, you'll find that they're mostly pop acts. They have a few hits and then a bunch of filler. It's a shame too. Everything's a shame, apparently. Russian Reaper wants to know if I do any PC gaming. I've talked about that. I do old PC gaming. I love strategy games, particularly. I like The Sims a lot. The Sims is pretty popular here. I know that's a sim game, but that one, I love Roller Coaster Tycoon and Sim City. I've played a handful, and when I say a handful, I actually mean one or two of the Civilization games. I like all that sort of thing, you know, and it's stuff that's not very demanding on your PC hardware. I've never been one that I want to, you know, spend thousands of dollars on a PC game just so I can play the latest Need for Speed. That's not, you know, my thing. Kit171 wants to know my favorite kind of pizza. The kind that's hot. Though I do like the kind that's cold too. You know, give me some pizza. Phantom 6 Man wants to know have I been watching the Japanese Xenoblade X presentations. Yes, I have. In Japanese. Well, what choice have I, really? But yes, I do. Why do I like Other M? Why not? I think that it's a nice mashup of... It was a great concept. It was a really great concept. A great mashup of the different game styles of that the series had been known for up to that point. I just think that... I don't know. I think that with if the Motion Plus had been available, that would have been a much better received game. I really think. Big J Man wants to know my thoughts on the Kingdom Hearts series. The Kingdom Hearts series, I've only played Kingdom Hearts 2 myself. I watched other people play the other Kingdom Hearts games, and it's an RPG with Disney characters. It's cool. It is what it is. Let me see here. Andy Thompson says, Metal Kazoo or Metal Polka album. Are you asking me to produce one of these albums? I might. I just might. And then you'll have to buy it, but you won't, so then it'll be an effort in vain. And Kashira Guy wants to know, am I a fan of oranges? No. Fuck oranges. Their pulp gets stuck in my teeth, and I don't have to tolerate that shit. Folks, that's all my time. Thank you very much for joining me right here this week on Monday Night Chaos. I want to wish each and every one of you a great week, and I hope that all your wildest dreams come true. And if they don't, hey, better luck next week. So, each and every one of you, I want to say that you guys are great. I have been the mighty Yellkaos, and I want you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Don't forget, follow me on your Facebook and your Twitter, your social stuff, all of that. And I'll see you next week right here on Monday Night Chaos. Thank you very much, folks. And again, one more time, take care of yourselves and be sure to take care of each other. We'll see you next time.